See him. So this is from last week's Lacewing drop. Hey, quick video about how to deal with aphids and other pests. So I'm going to show you what's going on with this particular plant and how we proactively and also reactively deal with aphids, but without spraying any pesticides, no chemicals, no pesticides. We're just using predatory insects. And in this case, what we found the best predator for dealing with aphids, and this is the bong aphid or cannabis aphid. Tell you the truth, it didn't exist here in California, or wasn't a problem until about 10 years ago. It seems to be when industrial hemp came and more commercial cannabis, that set up a situation where all of a sudden this aphid came. I think it comes from like India or Pakistan, somewhere in there. But now it's here in California. It's not a plant killer, but it is annoying. And if you don't keep the aphids in check, they will pretty much ruin your product, and it's disgusting, and they'll just get all over the plant, and they ooze this honeydew syrupy stuff. That's what the ants. So if you've ever seen ants and aphids, the ants actually sort of herd the aphids, and then the aphid sucks on the plant and then squirts a little, it's so weird, but it squirts a little drop of honeydew out of its butt, and then the ant comes and eats it. Weird. So the ants actually sort of farm or herd. They're like cattle ranchers for aphids. But I want to show you what's going on here, and if you come in here a little close. By the way, we want to show you just how cool this Iranian is. This is like the dark hair version. So anyway, you can probably see, let's come in on this one. And,
yep.
Yeah, it should be going in focus. But now, I don't know if the phone will work for this, but what I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull a leaf off here. Actually, that's not a good leaf to show you this. Let me try another. That's not either. Let me get down. This one may have a... Okay, so here's a leaf. Now, so, do you see the little white things on there? Okay, so these are the aphids. That's the bong or cannabis aphid. And you can see there's one actually is moving around. And so that's how you check for aphids. Now, strangely enough, last week when I applied Lacewings, I only put one box, and I'll show you the little hanger. So this plant didn't really have aphids last week, but that's kind of how the aphids, they set up little colonies, and they'll just pop up on one plant, and then if they go sort of unchecked, they'll just start building basically like a civilization on your plant, and then they get overpopulated, and then it just becomes infestation. So when you find any aphid, so first of all, very important, never wait for aphids or thrips. If you have aphids and thrips in your area, just accept they're gonna be there every year. So just plan ahead and proactively start applying. If you're using predators, which I think is awesome because you don't have to spray anything, and they're way more actually effective, especially in flower. You don't want to spray anything during flower. So what you do is you just start proactively start applying your predators, and there's a good possibility you'll never see the aphids or thrips just because the predators will be keeping them in check, so they'll never explode into infestation levels where you'll even see them. Now, this is not an infested plant by any means. That was just a little scattering of aphids, but if I left this for another 2 weeks unchecked, and by the way, this is getting close to finishing flowering, but if I didn't check the aphids, they'd just explode, and eventually you'd have aphids crawling all over the buds and just squirting their little honeydew syrup all over, and then they shed their outer exoskeleton. It's just, they get really disgusting. So you don't want them. So anyway, what I'm now doing is I've identified, okay, this plant, the aphids are attempting to set up a civilization on this plant. So what I'm going to do, the first step is I just go through, here's another one where you can see some aphids. Yeah. So they're definitely on this, okay? But it's not, I've seen when you get to infestation level, you'll flip a leaf over and the entire leaf on the underside will just be coated. It looks like almost like lizard skin or snake skin. It's just pure aphids. And once you get to that point, you're screwed and you're gonna have to spray something, and actually you're gonna have to spray a bunch of times to get rid of them. So you don't wanna get to that point. So this is actually still very controllable, but I can see they're starting to set up a civilization. So what I first do is on this plant, and I've already been doing this, is I go through, I'm not going to bore you with watching this, but I go through and start removing all the big leaves. Just manually clear out the big leaves, because if you think about that, how do you kill aphid? As soon as you remove the leaf and throw it on the ground, those aphids are dead. Their experience on planet Earth is gone. They're not going to be able to crawl all the way over here and get it back on the plant or anything. They're dead. So the most effective way to first minimize your aphid population is just pull off all the big leaves that you don't need, that the plant doesn't need, and then also you're limiting now the territory where the aphids can actually be. And once you get this plant leafed, so I'm not going to bore you with just watching me pulling leaves off for 15 minutes, but this plant's already fairly well leafed now. So now what I'm going to do is I have what's going on here. So this is a little hanger box. So you end up getting a tub full of lacewing larvae. And inside that tub, they keep the lacewings in this buckwheat shells. And inside, ooh, can you even see? Can you see that in there? Can you see the lacewings crawling around? I see one. Let me see if I can. There's one right there. Anyway, you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, trust me, they're in there. They're very small. But they'll keep getting bigger, and once they're, and then they eventually turn into a full-size adult lacewing that then flies away. And they kind of look like a little praying mantis with a short neck. And then the adults go off and eat pollen, actually. So it's the larvae that are the predatory stage of that plant. So anyway, I have a whole like ice cream tub full of this buckwheat shells that are full of lacewings. Then you take the little hanger box, scoop that in there, fill it up. Now I put a piece of organic cotton ball on top because yellow jackets actually really love eating your lacewing larvae. So if they find them, you'll come and find the little box with all these yellow jackets in here just feeding on your rather expensive and really valuable lacewing larvae. So this is a little protection layer to keep away the yellow jackets. But for this plant, because this one now I know that the aphids are trying to set up shop here, I'm going to go really heavy on those, and I'm going to end up putting, for most plants, I just put one of these, but I'm actually going to just blast this where the lacewings can just overwhelm the aphids. And within a week, I pretty much guarantee there will be 0 aphids on this plant. So I'm going to actually put four of these boxes on this one plant. So I'm just massively going to be overwhelming the aphids with lacewing larvae. And lacewing larvae, by the way, are called the aphid lion, because they'll eat like 20 to 50 aphids a day. And then if you consider there's probably like 150, 200 lacewing larvae in each box. So I'm now putting, close to 1,000 lacewings on here that are all going to be eating like 30 to 50 aphids a day. And then the aphids, I think they kind of get the message, like this is hostile territory, so they kind of disappear as well on their own. So I have now hung 4 boxes, and I had 1 from last week, but all those are already patrolling this plant, but they just didn't quite keep up with the aphid population. So anyway, so now within a week, I pretty much guarantee there will not be 1 single aphid on this plant, and that's all going to happen without spraying anything. I don't have to dress up, put on a ventilator, drag a sprayer up here, spray all sorts of shit, spray all over flowers. Yuck, no one wants that. So anyway, our little lacewings are going to do all the work for us, gobble these up, turn into happy adult lacewings, and then become part of our native environment here. So eventually, and another big goal for our garden is to just create more plants such as yarrow, anise, and dill and such like that. Those are the type of flowers, those little clustery flower plants that lacewings tend to really like and feed on as pollen. So then the adults will be super happy, and then they'll come back and lay eggs on these plants again, and we'll have then a native lacewing population just that's constantly keeping our plants protected. So that's the goal. It just takes a long time, you know, and a lot of work to get all this stuff, especially in the cannabis industry where you're just kind of hanging on for dear life, just you know, just growing cannabis. And all the regulations and all that crap, just it sounds crazy, but it's really hard to do anything beyond just growing cannabis, making tinctures, and kind of running the business. So anyway, all that stuff is coming. We're making good progress in Boulder Creek with our flowers this year. And anyway, so hope that's helpful and can inspire other people to grow cannabis without using pesticides, because you really don't have to. And when you break down the man hours, the time, the cost of the pesticide, the cost of spraying equipment and everything, it turns out that using lacewings and cucumeris for thrips is probably the same cost. But it's just, and now you're totally pesticide free. So anyway, hope that's helpful. Let's come in again on one of these beautiful, beautiful Iranian flowers. And yeah, they're getting crystally, and that really deep magenta pistils. Those hairs are just stunning. And unfortunately, we don't have smell-o-vision, but yeah, believe me, they smell just exquisite. So anyway, hope that's helpful. Bye. Oh yeah, and also wanted to add, don't want to give the wrong impression that our garden is covered in aphids, because the thing is, what's really interesting about aphids is they'll show up, let's say, on one plant, and they'll try and colonize a plant, but that doesn't mean that there's aphids in your entire garden. So like this plant right here, so what I'm doing is I'm applying these lacewings, is I come in, so this is one of our Iranians that we kept light on for longer, so it vegged longer, by the way, so this one's going to get really big, obviously, but it's starting to flower later. And also, as Iranian, this variety of Iranian gets bigger, it actually takes longer to transition into flower. It's kind of like a big, giant, Titanic-sized boat. If it wants to turn, the bigger the boat, the longer it takes to transition. But I just wanted to show you. So my point being is that the aphids are regional. They actually move geographically. So if you have a plant that seems to be showing some aphids, so you'll want to apply your lacewings really heavy to that one plant, but then the plants on the perimeter that surround that plant, even if you don't see aphids on those plants yet, go a little heavier on its neighbor plants, because that's how the aphids travel. So they'll start in one area of the garden, and then they actually move just from plant to plant to plant. So if you find aphids on one plant, pile on the lacewings on that plant, and then put the lacewings on fairly heavy on all the neighbor plants on all sides of that plant, and then out from there maybe still go a little heavier. But then once you know the aphids are in the neighborhood, even like this plant right here, and this is how I check for aphids. So here's just a ton of leaves I've been pulling off, and like this plant and all these plants, like the last 10 plants on this side of the garden, not one single aphid. So nothing, absolutely nothing. But I know the aphids are here, so I'm going to put one of those containers on, just so I do have lacewings patrolling in case an aphid somehow gets on this plant and tries to start a civilization. Those lacewings will immediately go and gobble them up and nip that in the bud. So anyway, I just want to make clear that yeah, just because one plant has some aphids doesn't mean every plant has it, but you just have to plan ahead that, you know, they could show up. So the whole point is you want to be proactive, but then also reactive. So if you do see aphids, react really quickly, really aggressively with your lacewings, but also be proactively putting defensive lacewings on all the plants that don't even show aphids, or aren't even near the ones with aphids, but still know that they could show up. So hope that makes sense, but I'm just really stoked. It just seems over in that portion of the garden, we've had maybe 4 or 5 plants that have aphids, but in this region, still totally pristine. But that doesn't mean, again, does not mean to let your guard down. You just have to stay vigilant throughout the entire season, and I usually just every 3 weeks or so I'm putting one container on the plants that don't have aphids. But as soon as I see an aphid on a plant, boom, I start piling them on that plant. So I hope that makes sense, but I'm just stoked that I'm not seeing aphids anywhere in this region, so we're all good. And again, the ones that do have aphids, because I've gone so heavy on the lacewing, within a week they should be gone completely. So anyway, hope that helps. Bye. Okay, bonus footage just had to share while I'm de-leafing, looking for aphids. Just wanted to show you the size of some of these leaves. It's just insanely humongous leaves. So we got that, this. Anyway, you get the idea. Let me see if I can find another just monster. And this is, I believe this is my Afghan Iranian cross. So yeah, I would say that is hybrid vigor right there. So yeah, let me find that other one real quick. All right, they're already getting a little floppy, but that's a big leaf. All right, adios. Just found a lacewing in the field in the act. Let's see if we can see him. Okay, see him. So this is from last week's lacewing drop, and I actually, while I was leafing this plant, I found that lacewing on the other underside of the leaf. So I then rubbed the leaf on this flower to make sure I didn't toss him, and put him back on our plant to start protecting. So, oh, and by the way, so anyway, there was a lacewing in action. You just saw him. They don't really hang out in the flower. They hang in the excuse me, underside of the leaf, but I just rubbed him off on the flower to get him back on the plant. Anyway, yes, they do exist. And by the way, I'm like reacting to something. Dying. Okay, bye. Hey, another real quick one. Super cool news to report. This plant last week was actually the worst plant in the garden that was borderline on the edge of starting to get infested with aphids. And so I was very concerned about it and have really been monitoring this. And by the way, so what I did was I leafed it like really hard. I'll show you its neighbor here that hasn't been leafed. And by the way, this is a Brazil Amazonia crossed with the Iranian, the 18-hour flower. So this is going to be a really cool plant. And as you can see, it's already going into flower. I don't know, do you want to come in on this? So anyway, this should be an amazing hybrid of really electric sativa with real clear meditative indica type that already, the Brazil already finishes pretty early for an electric sativa, and it's got a squat bushy structure. But now with the Iranian, this should be a really interesting hybrid. I'm very excited. But getting back to the point. Okay, so this plant last week, sorry I can't show you a before and after, but was probably had the highest aphid concentration of any plant in the garden, and was a little bit on the alarming side. But I just want to show you now, after I leafed it really hard and then applied a heavy dose of Lacewings. Okay, so there's one aphid, there's one aphid. So, but when last week, there were probably 50 aphids on some of these. I'm going to pull another. Let's come in here and just kind of look at this and see it real time. Okay, so here's another leaf. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe. Okay, but they're really tiny ones. So the good news, here's another one, has like 1 or 2, but these are the little tiny baby ones. So I think they're probably going to get munched before they get to adult phase anyway. So I'm going to leaf a little more. Yeah, this one doesn't even have a single aphid. No aphids on this leaf either. But just to make sure and seal the deal and make sure and finish this plant so there's no chance of a repopulation of aphids, I'm probably going to hang 3 more of those boxes on this plant just to make sure it's just clean, clean, clean. But I'm also excited. This just proves that these Lacewings are super effective. But you have to apply them very aggressively if you do see aphids, and you also have to apply them, I'm going to say it again, proactively and reactively, aggressive reactively if you do see aphids show up. So you're always having to monitor your plants. You just go in there, pull a leaf, check it out, and just see if you see anything. Again, another leaf, 0 aphids. So just telling you, it's not just some hippy-dippy idealistic concept that predator bugs will go eat all your pests for you and you don't have to use pesticides. It really, really, really works. So hopefully that can help some of y'all. And yeah, if you don't have to spray anything on your plants, you're just going to have way higher quality cannabis, way higher vibin cannabis, and then this is just smart pest management as opposed to, sorry, opposite of smart is stupid. Stupid pesticide management, which is just spraying and sterilizing and spraying chemicals all over the place. Yuck. That's not creating an ecosystem. That's just like sterilization, sort of oppression, and not working with the forces of nature. It's actually against. So also, by the way, because this plant had aphids, I'm also on this neighboring plant. I'm loading up the aphid or the Lacewings as well, because there's a high possibility some of those aphids jumped onto this plant. So this one's getting a heavier dose. This one's getting a heavier dose. So this was the epicenter, and then this is all the neighbors. And so we're going to give heavy dose, heavy dose, heavy dose. I'm going to check this one too. Even if this doesn't have aphids, I'm going to go really heavy dose on this just to make sure it doesn't spread. And I hope that makes sense. Peace.